So our dear friend Audie, friend of the show, we all know her, we all love her. She called me and she said, "Hey, I have this really cool idea." When she ran the idea through to me, I thought this is a cool thing that we could try to do on the live show. Let's see if she'll pick up. And if she picks up, she'll explain to you exactly what it is we're planning on doing. Hello?
Hello.
Hi there, Audie. How you doing?
How are you?
I'm very well.
So good.
I'm very good. Why don't you explain to the dear people what it is that you had in mind for this show so they know what the next segment is going to be and what's in store?
I got like a little spiel, so I'll do the whole little spiel.
Let's do it! I'm excited!
Yes. All right. Woo. My name is Audie, and I am working on a podcast for creatives that delves into their psyche. I kind of started this project because as an artist myself, I struggle with the fundamental need to be creative. I can't shut it off. It's the way I process life. It's saved me many times in life, but I still experience dry spells and struggles with the final product, and the process can often be really daunting. I decided I wanted to hear from other artists of various media to learn about their relationship with their creativity. Does it help? Does it hinder? How do they work through it? What's their relationship like with their creativity? And kind of gain insight on how to work through some of my nuances with creativity.
Very good. And now what we're going to be doing is...
we're going to go through multiple rounds of questions as we get to know our favorite person, which is you, the rave. And I do have a few rules, though.
Okay, let's hear them.
So the rules are you can only skip 2 questions, so choose carefully.
Oh, okay.
Anything that I ask of you, you can ask back to me, because if I am going to ask it, I should be able to answer it.
Okay. For everybody who's in the know, or who is not in the know, I should say, she just told me that she has an idea of what she wants to do. None of this is pre-rehearsed. I don't know the questions she's going to ask. She said that there's going to be a rapid fire round too, I think, right?
Yep.
There's going to be a rapid fire round.
round.
So that's going to be interesting. I'm hearing these questions for the first time just as you guys are. So this is going to be interesting for everybody involved. So let's do this. Am I allowed to know how many questions there are in total?
So I actually have quite a few questions, but it's not that you have to answer all of them. It's more to have enough to fill the space if we need to. And you might skip some. So I don't really give you a number. I just kind of... go with the feel.
Let's do it. Let's go.
You don't know where the conversation's going to go, right?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Let's do this.
Rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Answer quickly. The first thing that pops into your head, it's like a warm-up just to get into the groove of answering.
I'm totally not nervous about wrecking my career at all. Let's do it.
We'll start out easy. Favorite color?
Green.
Favorite food?
Pizza.
Jordy or Data?
Oh, Data.
My man, yes. Thin or thick crust?
Thin.
Last song played on your iTunes or your Spotify?
It's probably a Spells and Curses song, to be honest with you. Probably be
Really?
I have to listen back to my songs to remind myself that I don't suck sometimes.
I love that.
It's
no,
true.
That's good. That's good. That's actually very positive. Way to go.
Thank
More
you.
sauce or more cheese?
Ooh, more sauce.
DC or Marvel?
Movies or comics?
Ooh, good question. Comics first.
Comics, DC.
Yeah, movies.
Marvel.
Marvel. I
Yeah.
got you. CD, vinyl, or digital?
Digital.
Oh, all right.
I know,
Nice.
I'm weird.
No, not weird at all. There's a lot of great nuances with digital. I like it. What's your favorite sound?
Silence.
Ooh. Favorite swear word?
It's not the F word. It's not my favorite one. I'm trying to think. There's one that I really enjoy saying, but I forgot. It was in a different language. Crap. Let's just go with crap for now.
No, that's good. Let's go with crap.
Let's go with crap for now. The one that I'm thinking of is like in like Farsi. I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but basically it translates to may your mother throw up shit.
Oh my goodness, that's brilliant. What's your least favorite sound?
Least favorite sound? People chewing with their mouth open.
What are you currently watching?
Myself on YouTube right now.
Do you feel good? That was easy, right?
That was pretty cool, yeah. Let's do it. Let's keep going.
So now you feel loose.
Yes.
Let's go a little deeper.
Let's do it.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
So one of the ways that I found you is that we kind of started commenting on each other's art through Instagram and then dialoguing about creativity and the process and art. And that's really what made me connect with you and really help flesh out this idea. And so with that, I want to go really deep and go into your ideas. How do you form them for music? Is it a processing of your experience or a developing through like a hypothetical situation?
I would definitely say for me it is based on kind of the latter, a hypothetical situation. Like, I mean, I write not necessarily from my experiences, but rather from my emotions that I have from experiences. For example, like I've never written a song about somebody because if I do, I won't be able to finish it unless it's like about that person, and real life is kind of boring. So I kind of embellish a lot of things. And so, I mean, like for example, I like to think of my songs as like movies or episodes in a TV show. And nobody asks, for example, like they don't ask Steven Spielberg, hey man, what was the inspiration behind E.T.? Did you really meet an alien? You know, what was that like flying on your bike over the moon? Nobody asks that because they kind of know that there's a separation between the director and the artist and like the final product, which is the movie. And with music, there's this assumption that whatever the musician is recording and releasing, it's autobiographical. For me, it's not necessarily the case. It kind of is, but it's really not, because I think more melodrama makes for better music, to be honest with you.
I like that. I kind of feel like that makes it stronger in a way, because you're creating something based off of emotion that leaves up to interpretation for the people that consume it.
Exactly.
And
and to cut you off really quickly,
makes that strong.
Yes, and the whole thing about like the truth in my music isn't necessarily a truth by way of story, but rather the emotion. So for example, if I write a song that's about like, okay, like kind of like something similar to Heartbreak, I don't write about a specific heartbreak I experienced, but rather the emotion of heartbreak. And like if you read my lyrics, it's not necessarily telling a story as much as it is painting a picture with different colors. So I mean, that's kind of the best way I could describe it to like a visual artist, I think.
So then with that, do you feel like your music has a color palette? Like, do you think of a color palette when you create your albums?
I don't think of it during, but usually when I listen to it, when I'm after the fact, I can see, not see, but I can get a feeling for what the color palette is. Like for example, the first album, because it's all over the place stylistically, it's very much kind of a rainbow thing, but at the core of it, there's like this purity because it's my first album. That's why, and it's usually reflected, the color that I hear in the song is usually reflected in the album art, and that's why the album art for my first album is like a white background with like kind of rainbowish dots. And the second album was it's supposed to be very raw and live, and it's very not as produced as the first one, and so that's why it's kind of gray, because it also deals with somewhat darker subject matter. And then like Bewitching Pool is completely just black and black and white, and the next song is actually more sort of like watercolors, like it's more lovely.
Yeah, I love that.
That's the best way I could describe it, is like I can pick out the color or what the color is after the fact, but never during, because then if I do that if I do that while creating, then I'll limit myself to stick with those colors, and I hate that.
That's actually a great leadway into the next one. So how do you get started though? Once you have like your inspiration, what is your like first step for you to create music?
It depends on what comes to me first. If it's a lyric, then I just have to write down the lyric and then build around that. If it's a guitar line or a melody, it's just sort of figuring out the map of that, of the blueprint, if you will. But
I love that you can go either way. Like some people are strictly, I have to start with lyrics and then build the song, and other people need to start with whatever their beat is versus their melody.
Yeah.
So I like that you flip-flop.
That kind of happened as a product of this like writing by myself, more or less. You kind of have to know when to identify when inspiration hits, and a lot of times it'll happen literally. Oh, actually, you know what, probably the real answer to this is the first thing I do is I record it on my phone, on my recorder, because like a lot of times when inspiration hits, you have to be aware when it hits, and for me it'll happen when I'm on the bus, or it's happened to me while I was waiting for a train, and I'd literally go, okay, I'm not near a guitar, but let me record this, and then, you know, I'll figure it out later. So I guess recording it into a phone would be the best answer.
I love you. You just, while you're waiting for the train, I'm gonna just hum the song. Get it down now.
Pretty much.
Yes.
And sometimes
you got to do that.
And sometimes what I've noticed is when I record the song on my phone, I like listening back to it. I'm like, this is not what I remember, but it's different from. This is not like the initial idea that I had. I think like somewhere along the line, either because my phone is shitty, or maybe because the train's in the background making a lot of noise. I know this isn't the original thing I was singing, but I hear something else from the thing that I'm singing. So I write another song that's different, and I can't remember what the original sound that I recorded was because of whatever reason, and then I just go off of that new thing. So
beautiful. No, that's actually a really great way to work. I like it because you kind of do sketches, whether it's lyrical or musical, and then build off of it, which is very much kind of the way a visual artist works. So I do like that.
That's a very cool way of putting it. Yeah, you're right.
And so do you ever create anything that you feel when you listen back on it that it sounds too much like an influence, or do you feel like you've naturally found your voice and you never really worry about that?
That's a great question. I think that I have honed in on, there's different facets, I think, to the Spells and Curses sound. So there's clearly the more sort of rock sound that I want to do is like Mercedes Alunga Bewitching Pool, where it kind of combines like synthesis and like electronic elements with some rock and also some crooning a little bit. And then there's like a softer, obviously Wicked for Days, If Only You Knew element, where there's that aspect of it. And then there's times when I just want to do something really crazy like Las Vegas Angeles that's just completely electronic, left field and whatever. In terms of like what I release, the only stuff I don't release, I could say, is the stuff that I feel is too personal. Like there are songs that I've written and recorded where I'm like, I don't want anybody to know this about me, and so it'll never be released. And so yeah,
because it's like too personal, or
yes, because like I usually don't write songs that are too personal when I can't help but, like, when the lyrics can't help but come out as being that personal. It's either you have one of two choices. You either accept that it's out and you can share it with the world, which I did for some songs, or you can just go like, I'm not ready to release this yet, and you just put it somewhere else.
So do you journal at all so that you can kind of
I wish I could
push out or release some of that?
I'm so terrible at journaling. I should. I know that it's great. I know that it's helpful. I know that it helps productivity and inspiration and all that stuff, but I do not journal. It's terrible. I mean, I sometimes keep like a folder in my phone that has like ideas of like poetic like lines that I have in my mind, and I write those down, but like I never sit down and I should. I know I should, but I never like sit down and take the time to just journal my thoughts completely from beginning to end.
I mean, it could work. You don't know. You have to try it first.
True.
It doesn't work for everybody, but it might be worth it to just see if that allows you to create music on an emotional standpoint where you can keep it broad.
100%. You know what's funny is like in the new year I bought one of those bullet journal things where you're supposed to that's supposed to like help your productivity and goal setting and all that stuff. And I still haven't used it, which is terrible.
Haven't tried it. You're like, nope.
I'm gonna get to it.
So let's go like a little bit more subconscious thoughts.
Ooh, okay, we're going there, folks. Let's do it.
All right. When you were a child, what music did you love? Like a kid.
Love.
Let's say before 12. Every kid's got something that like, man, this was my jam when I was a kid, even if it was the Barney song.
Probably Spice Girls. Yeah.
Yay! I love them. Who was your favorite band pre-16?
Pre-16, Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, good. What kind of music did your parents listen to?
Russian pop music.
Because they're driving in the car.
Russian
they have the control of the radio.
Music.
That's
it.
Really?
They love Russian pop music.
What does Russian pop music sound like in comparison to American pop? Are they similar, or? Nowadays,
yes, they are very similar. It's just with Russian words, because a lot of culture. I mean, America is like kind of the leader for a lot of musical culture, unless you're talking about like a country that has like its own sound. Like Latin America has their own instruments and their own sort of percussive feel and elements, as does Asia, certain parts in Asia, as does South America. But for the most part, European countries, they follow like the American sound. There's not really, I mean, there's Russian folk music, but I mean that sounds exactly
different.
It sounds exactly like what you would think Russian folk music would sound like.
Did they let you listen to anything you wanted, or was there restrictions on the music you were allowed to consume?
That's hilarious. I remember there was no restrictions at all. I remember going back when CDs were a thing. I remember going with my mom. I'd always save up money and I'd go to like Target with my mom back when Target was a thing, and I'd go and I'd basically force her to just wait for me while I pick out some like CDs, and I'd pick out like Nine Inch Nails, Rage Against the Machine, Guns N' Roses, Nirvana. Mom, I want these. And she's like, all right, let's go to this, front register, and I paid for it, and then that's it. And those are mine.
So would you say your influences are kind of this alternative rock kind of background?
Influences for what?
For music in general, like you kind of grew up on this kind of an alternative rock. It sounds like, Nine Inch Nails, Nirvana, Guns N' Roses.
Well, in the beginning, I just wanted to learn how to play guitar. So any kind of music that had guitar, any kind of music that had a guitar, I would either buy it or I'd take it out from the library. I'd go to the library, for example, and they'd have like all these CDs listed in front of you that you could just borrow for a week, and I'd look at the covers and I'd go like, okay, this has a guitar on the cover and it's Chet Atkins. He's a country wizard, and I fell in love with Chet Atkins. And then I'd go through another barrel and I'd see Motley Crue. Oh, I heard about them from their AOL biography. Let me take them, and so it wasn't really so much like I didn't have any plans on being a great songwriter. I just had plans of being a fire guitar player, and that meant, in my mind, being able to play different styles. And to play different styles, you had to listen to different styles. And so flamenco, country, rock, metal.
Yes.
Rock and metal were obviously where I gravitated the most as a teenage boy who wanted to just say to everything. But I mean, like,
yes,
I had an appreciation for jazz and some country as well.
Nine Inch Nails actually has my favorite guitar player, and I follow him no matter where he goes. But
Fink?
Robin Fink is one of my favorite.
Robin,
yeah.
I found out about Robin when he was playing with Guns N' Roses, and he has.
Oh my God, late.
he has probably the most beautiful solo on the Chinese Democracy album, on This I Love. Did you hear that? Did you hear the album?
Yes, he's stunning guitar player. He's absolutely magic.
Absolutely, I agree 110%. You've seen them live?
I have not seen Guns N' Roses live.
No, Nine Inch Nails.
Nine Inch Nails live. Oh, are you kidding? Many times, yes.
There we go. Great. Yeah, they're fantastic. Best show I've ever been to by far, hands down.
Nine Inch Nails live is your favorite show you've ever been to? Seeing them live. Yeah.
It was the Black and Gold Tour 2018, winter.
Ooh, nice. All right. They're great. I definitely watched them live any chance that I could get when they were touring. So do you have any favorite books, art, or movies that you feel influence you stylistically in any way?
Yes, I do. In terms of movies, there's this movie by Darren Aronofsky. It's definitely one of my favorite films. It used to be my favorite film for the longest time until I saw Titanic 3D. I'm like, oh yeah, this is my favorite movie. So
this is my favorite.
Yeah. So Titanic is clearly the greatest movie of all time, but like in terms of like one of the movies that has like an emotional resonance with me is the movie called The Fountain by Darren Aronofsky.
Oh my God, Rave! I just fell in love with you.
I assume you love it too.
That is literally my all-time favorite movie, and like nobody knows about it.
I know nobody knows about it. Yes, 100%. It's a great movie. It's one of the greatest movies of all time. I love the score of that movie, the orchestration of it. Oh my God! Kronos Quartet, unbelievable.
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of the most.
Twist my heart out. That movie is hugely influential to my art.
Same. Yeah, 100%. And I've also noticed, and I don't know if you've noticed this either, but like, it was such a bitch, I feel, for Darren Aronofsky to make that movie that after he made that movie, he was never the same again. He was like, he's never been as ambitious. Because like his next feature films were The Wrestler and then Black Swan, very low budget stuff. And when he tried to do a big budget thing, it was Noah, the story of Noah, and it just was kind of weird. It felt like he was doing it for the paycheck. Like this was like his passion project, The Fountain, and he really wanted to get it right, but the studios kept like screwing him over. And I'm just glad he released it as is, because I think it's a perfect movie.
It's beautiful.
It is.
It is literally one of the most beautiful films I think I've ever sat through.
It's one of the few movies I've ever, like, watching it on my computer, being like, I wish I could have seen this on, like, an IMAX screen.
Oh, my God. So I saw it on the big screen, like, in the movie theaters.
IMAX or regular?
And I will never forget the moment when I went to go see it, because there was a snowstorm, and I lost electricity, and part of that was my heat. And so the only place I could really go to was like a movie theater. That was the only thing that was open. And so I went and serendipitously went to go see The Fountain.
So you went to see it because you had nothing else to do, and you just saw it kind of by accident?
Totally literally by accident.
That
and
is
I
so
remember,
cool.
Oh yeah, when it ended, I was like dumbfounded. I like couldn't move. I couldn't get out of the movie theater because I was just so struck.
Guys, this is everybody
the
watching
entire
right now.
film.
Please do yourself a favor. Watch the movie The Fountain. The Fountain. It's fantastic. You will love it.
Get a box of tissues as well, because you'll need them.
Yes. If you want to understand a lot about my art, watch that movie. Yeah, but definitely The Fountain. That's definitely one. Another movie that I actually, now that I think about it, that kind of influenced a lot of stuff after the first album. Yeah, is Vanilla Sky. I don't know if did you watch that movie?
Yeah. Vanilla Sky also has some pretty cinematography.
Yeah, it's a great movie. The message is interesting. That I think like for the longest time, I always looked at that movie as kind of being like autobiographical about my life up until a certain point, and that's why it's like kind of hard to watch sometimes. But that's a very important movie for me too.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, you just like made my night with The Fountain.
I know.
Sorry.
There's not a lot of people who know about it, and it's unfortunate. It really is an incredible movie.
My best friend actually has his sleeve piece is the tattoo that's from The Fountain.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, his entire sleeve piece, and it's because it was so influential to his music and his art form that he was like, "I'm getting this tattooed on my arm because it means so much to me."
That is
I was
incredible.
like, "Do it," and it's beautiful. What do you think is more influential to your music, love or heartbreak?
Love or heartbreak?
Yeah, do you feel like when you finish an album, do you look at it and you go, most of these sound like falling in love, or most of these are like heartbreak?
I mean, I don't even... I mean, I suppose somebody listening to my music for the first time, or just listening to it plainly, will assume that the answer to that would be heartbreak. But honestly, I don't even think along those lines. I honestly, personally, I would say neither. I think for somebody listening to it on the outside, they probably would assume heartbreak. But for me, it's like, it's something, it's not even like, it's more ethereal than that. It's somewhere from the dreamland. It's not of this earth. I don't look at it as love or heartbreak. It's hard. That's a hard one for me to answer.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Because like when I listen to your music, I think that it's a lot about love. Personally, I don't necessarily get heartbreak from it because there feels like there's so much passion in it. It's like the state of euphoria that you kind of wish you were always in. Like you wish you were kind of going through these emotions.
Do you mean in terms of like what you as the listener assume I'm going through, or what you as the listener get out of it?
Just like me personally, when I listen to your music, it feels like love to me. Like it's just this euphoric state of happiness and love.
Interesting.
And so when I listen to it, it's very uplifting to me because it seems like a beginning and a flourishing and less of an ending.
I've never thought about it like along those lines, so I don't know.
Well, you shouldn't. You gotta leave it up to the interpretation of your people, right?
I guess I mean that's kind of how I roll anyway. Yeah.
So with your kind of euphoric, dreamlike state, do you find that when you make your music, that it comes from kind of a world of your dreams, like it comes through your subconscious a little bit?
I don't even think it comes from anywhere within me. Have you ever heard like people postulate about the flow state? So basically it's this frame of mind, and a lot of people talk about it. Eckhart Tolle, he discusses it. A lot of people in terms of like productivity, efficiency, and creativity, they talk about this theory of the flow state, which is basically something that says where you're just sort of like kind of, you've more or less put yourself in like this trance, and from this trance you're able to sort of lock in with a higher power, if you will, and from that you're able to draw from, like, some people call it the eternal source, some people call it the ethereal. You become a conduit, you become a channel through which something, you're like an old TV antenna that's, you know, moving around, and you're catching channel 4 and you caught it, and you're not doing anything, you're just finally in tune with the wave. And from that wave, you're able to produce what you produce. But I've never consciously sat down and said, okay, I'm going to write this kind of song, and it's going to have this and this, and I'm going to make it go like that. Because whenever I do that, it then becomes too like an exercise in craft, and it becomes devoid of emotion, in my opinion. Like all my favorite songs, and pretty much all the songs I've released so far have been songs from the flow state, which is another reason why I don't release a lot of songs, is because like I hear the intention in my music. If I'm unable to listen to it as a listener and hear the intention be something more than, oh, this is just a flex, then I can't get behind it, and it just sounds weird to me, and I don't release it. Whereas like now, I think in terms of getting my voice, I've sort of found how to properly and consistently channel the flow state and enter that state to create. And just like, it literally is like, the way it happens is I start working on something, I look at the clock, it's 12 p.m., and I start working, I look at the clock, and it's 8 p.m. out of nowhere. And that's the flow state. You're not thinking, you're just doing.
Yes.
And there's not, you're not self-editing, you're not self-correcting, you're just creating, and then if you want, you can edit after the fact. But that is where I think my creativity or ability, that's where it comes from, in my opinion.
I've never really heard it called the flow state before, but I think like that with my own creativity, but I think of it more as like a possession in a way. Something else takes over and connects me to a area of my life or world that I just didn't even fathom and couldn't touch, and then something magical usually just transpires through it. Are you able, sense of time or anything. Are you able
to comfortably say, like, when you finished painting something that, like, oh, I painted that? My question is, like, are you able to, as an artist, easily claim ownership of that creative effort? Because sometimes I feel like, again, like, literally, if I'm working on something and I look at the clock, 8 hours pass and I'm finished, I'm like, I don't even remember recording this. I don't remember how that happened. There are songs, like, I don't remember how I recorded actually I do. If Only You Knew and Wicked for Days, I kind of remember the vocals. I remember the vocals for every song because I really slave over the vocals. But when it comes to, like, the instrumentals for a lot of the songs, because that's kind of a lot of times when I don't record a song unless I have it all completely finished in my head. Vocals, lyrics, everything. And so when I put it down, I always start with, in terms of recording, I always start with the drums, bass, guitar. And a lot of times when I'm doing that, I never remember how that happens. So it's kind of weird for me going, like, I don't even remember performing guitar or doing that solo. And I think because I can't remember creating it is why I have such an easy time listening to it as like a fan, so to speak, and not going like, oh, I remember. This is interesting. This is like therapy for me. I'm finding things out about myself right now.
Yes, that's what this is about. I would say I've had that instance with music for sure. Anytime I do a live performance piece, I will see people's videos or people will talk to me about their experience, and I will be like, I don't remember any of that.
Yeah.
And I do totally feel like that's a full-on possession type thing.
Yeah.
And there are some live arts performances with painting and body art where at the end of it, when it's the creature is walking around the room and people are photographing it and stuff, I do have like this weird moment of realization that somehow, in some way, in the past 6 hours, I made that.
Yeah.
But I don't know how.
No,
like,
that's,
I don't.
yeah.
I knew there was an idea, and then somehow it developed into something that is leaps and bounds beyond the idea.
Yeah. I have another question for you, actually, if you don't mind me interjecting. Do you find that you are able to be conscious and self-aware of what you're doing while you're doing it? I'm terrible at asking questions, but let me give you like an example for me. I know when I'm performing and I start like not thinking about the song, but rather the audience's not reaction, but just like I'm just like kind of out of the moment and thinking about how this is, or worried about how this is coming off to people. That's when I know I'm having a terrible performance. And I look back at the camera and I'm like, oh, that's when I was thinking, or the video, and I go, that's when I was thinking about if I was hitting the note right, if I was connecting, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just like the energy is like not quite there. Like, do you have moments when you're creating and you feel like you're not present in the creation process or the collaboration process, and you feel like it reflects in the work?
Yes, absolutely.
How does that look like for you?
Anytime that I start to question or doubt what I'm doing in any way, I know that that's my moment that I need to stop, take a breath, maybe meditate, go do something physically active, like walk away from it completely.
Right.
Because whatever I try to push through that moment, it's not going to be good, because I'll like psych myself out in a way.
Yeah. And that goes back to the whole flow state thing. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. In music, when I would perform live, I would purposely do like almost like an isolation thing before a performance.
Yep.
just so I could get myself into a mental state where when I went out to perform, I was no longer myself.
Yeah.
It was going to be me just feeling the music and being up there with my bandmates and feeling that energy and thinking about nothing else. It made every performance a blur and almost not rememberable, but at the same time, it was the only way for me to get through it.
That's super important. I know exactly what like I have to do that sometimes too. Yeah.
You already kind of answered like one of my next things where I was like, through answering any of these questions, do you feel like anything's become illuminated for you?
Well, there you go. Yeah.
When you do hit like a dry spell, or you like you're lulling in your creativity, what are the methods you use to ramp yourself back up or get yourself back connected into your art?
Honestly, one of the things that I found works for me is to just like accept that I'm not going to be creative today. That seems to have been like the most mentally non-taxing path. For example, if I feel lazy, or not lazy, but like non-productive and it's not coming out, just get up, watch TV, eat something, read something, do something else. Because if it's not clicking that day, it's because I'm literally out with a kite trying to catch lightning and lightning's not hitting. So at a certain point, you kind of have to call it, I feel. And then I try again in a day or two, not even the next day.
That's actually beautiful that just by stepping away from it and doing some other things allows you to kind of reconnect with it later.
Yeah, I mean, like you kind of have to like remove the cache of it that's stored in your brain so that you can approach it with new eyes, I feel.
No, I do. I love that because I would say I try to do that, but what I tend to do is find another creative outlet to see if somehow I can build the connection of creativity back to the project. But by doing something else.
That sounds hella stressful.
A little bit, but I mean, it's little things like if I can't make a painting work and I'm stressed out on the painting, what I'll do is I'll leave it and I'll go write for like 20 minutes and just put words onto paper with no purpose in mind, but just to write. And sometimes I find pushing through whatever I'm trying to process into different medias then allows me to focus back in on the painting or the three-dimensional aspect.
Yeah. It's only been a recent development where I could do that, to be honest with you. It's taken a while to get to this point where I can go like, all right, let's take a breather. Whereas before I would try to sort of like force it, and it didn't work. It never works.
Yes, forcing it's like never a good idea. I think that's actually one of the reasons how I got into oblique strategies was trying to figure out ways to work through creative lulls and trying oblique strategies. Yeah. But I also like word association. That's also my go-to when I'm lacking in creativity and I need to ramp up. Word associations. Yeah. Works great.
I've tried the what's it called?
Oblique strategies.
Yeah, I've tried it. It takes some practice to even like get results from those cards.
I think it also works better when you've got like a partner in a way to do oblique strategies with. I do have a couple friends that are oddly musicians that do oblique strategies more than normal artists or traditional styled artists. Right. But musician friends of mine will email me and be like, send me an oblique strategy card, just anything, and I'll just do it right now. And I will respond, text, or email them like a phrase. Just because if someone else gives it to you, it's almost like they're holding you accountable.
Yeah. That's cool.
So, perspective. There's a lot we learned about you today, which is really great, and you got some time to illuminate a little. But when you sit and talk about these kinds of things, such as creativity and flow and how you process things, it does put some stuff into perspective. For me, as a creative, I always try to go off of two main ideas of some of my favorite creatives. One is Oscar Wilde, which is be yourself because everyone else is already taken. So strive to be as much of yourself as humanly possible. And two is Devin Townsend, who had a similar thought. Devin Townsend's one of my favorite people.
Heavy Debbie.
But he's so good. But he's got this great thought that it has resonated with me for years since I first heard it, which is realize what you do naturally, and no matter how dorky or silly, just do it because it's genuine. Yeah. And eventually, your creation will resonate with someone and possibly affect them positively. Keeping those things in mind, I am going to ask you this. If you could go back in time to visit a younger version of yourself, when would you go and what advice would you share to them?
Do I have to go back in time specifically to give my younger self advice? Like, that's the mission?
Yes. So, like, if you could go back in time to a younger version of yourself, when would you go, and what would you share to them?
Do you want the honest answer?
I do.
I would not even. I wouldn't even bother. There would be no way. There would be no way to convince me that I'm wrong or I should reconsider something. Like, I was so. I at that time, at any point before the release of my second album, there's nothing you could tell me. There's nothing you could tell me. Even up until Bewitching Pool, I'd say. Like, you can't tell me nothing.
You know what's great about that?
What?
That says to me that you are living your most genuine self. You are doing what you do naturally, no matter what, and it's genuine. And there is no misgivings or uncertainty in it. And I love that.
I suppose. I mean, I thank you. I mean, I didn't think about it along those lines, but yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
Because anytime that you think, like, if I could go back in time and do this, you've got, like, a little bit of a doubt in some way.
Yeah. I mean, of course, like, I have things that I could tell younger me, like, hey, don't do X, Y, Z, or try this, or instead of talking to this person, talk to this person. But, like, younger me probably wouldn't be like, okay, boomer, thanks, but no thanks.
Right. I can totally see that.
That's a lot of my energy comes from that sort of you energy. Like, I have to rage against something, and in that case, I'd be raging against myself.
Honestly, that is great though, because it's like you're settled and you know what it is that you do, and you just are gonna power through it. It is what it is, and it's gonna be me.
Well, I mean, if you say so.
Yeah, it is. You got that. If you couldn't be a musician or you weren't a musician, what other profession would you choose to be in?
I don't know. I mean, I never really thought about it. I mean, I have thought about it. Everybody has to think about what they want to do. I was gonna say maybe like a guitar teacher or something, but like it's not that I didn't like it, but like I'm kind of past it. I enjoyed it when I enjoyed it, but I'm not there anymore. Probably something business related. I enjoy coming up with like release strategies and album packaging and the promotional stuff behind that.
You'd be like a marketer. You'd be like creating marketing for musicians in a way.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, there's another thing I'm illuminated about myself. Yeah.
No, I think that is beautiful. Because musicians, I do a lot of art for musicians,
Mm-hmm.
and they need people who can understand.
Yeah.
Their art form
Mm-hmm.
and display it in such a way that gets people to be enticed.
Yeah, that's 100% true. You do want the music to connect on all levels.
And you make enticing art because you've done all your album art, right?
I've not done I haven't done them. I've picked them. So the first album art was done by a friend of mine. She's a graphic designer. Her name is Jana Tiluk. She just had like a do you remember I think it was called Flickster or like one of those old accounts. Mm-hmm. She had a account like that, or Photo Bucket or something like that, and I was just going through hers, and I'm like, wow, that image is really cool. I'd like to take this. And I asked her for it, and she's like, yeah, sure. And the second image for my second album was from another friend of mine who kind of like, he has like a fashion agency, and I just asked if I could just see some shots of his stuff, and he just sent me that, and he said the original picture of that was like with a girl and whatever, and I was like, oh, this is great, but let me crop it here, because like this is what the most interesting thing that's happening in this picture, in my opinion. And he looked at the picture, he's like, you're gonna crop her face out of it? I'm like, yeah, I don't know, it just feels better that way. And so I didn't create those. I didn't create the album art covers for any of my album covers, but I picked them based on like how the emotion that they make me feel relates to the emotion of the music.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's kind of like you chose, you kind of did them because you did cropping and color toning.
That's true. I did crop.
Which cropping is, that's key.
It's important.
You had an eye, you saw something, and you went for it.
You're absolutely right about that.
I like that you are collaborative with creating your album artwork, and you have other people that kind of bring things in or you resonate with, and you share their art through you.
Yeah, I mean, I share their art through me, but it's also like an augmentation of my art. So, I mean, it's kind of like a win-win as far as I see it.
Do you have any last words that you want to share about your creativity and how you feel about it, or what drives you?
I mean, I've spoken about this before. I don't really have anything to say about creativity. I think like it's just a muscle that has to be exercised, and sometimes, like any other muscle, it gets fatigued and you got to leave it alone to recover. But in terms of what drives me, something that I learned about myself last year, like I always knew it about myself, but it was like cemented about me last year, is that I have to have, like I said, something to rage against. I operate very well off of anger, and not like anger like violence, but like anger that makes you so passionate about something that you have to move towards some kind of result. Whether it's you're so angry you have to get this emotion out, or you're so angry you have to record the guitars this way. Although I might not look it, I operate very much off of anger, and I'm able to sort of like jujitsu it into into art instead of having to like hold it in and sort of lash out on people. And I there have been moments, and I'm not proud of it, where I've not been the best friend or son or brother, where I didn't know how to channel my anger, and I'd be frustrated with like school or friends or life, and I'd take it out on people, which was bad. But I mean, a lot of people do that, and I fortunately was able to find a way to sort of take that anger and just channel it into not the emotion, but like the energy that comes from the emotion into something more productive.
And I think that that's really one of the main characteristics of somebody who has to be creative in a way, is the channeling of energy of all the things that happen around them into something productive, whether it's writing or music or traditional art or sewing, whatever it is. The ability to kind of channel that energy into something else, it's key, and it is really like their lifeblood. I mean, it's what saves them. That's beautiful that you have now come to that realization and can use it positively.
Better late than never.
Better late than never. There's no lateness. Everything comes to you at the time it needs to come to you.
Love it.
It's pretty much the end of my questions, unless you have any for me.
Off the top of my head, no.
I would like to leave everybody on Quarantine Night Live with this thought, because I know that there are a lot of people that are on the Discord, and we talk about our art and our plants and our creativity and what's happening in our life, and I just want to remind everybody this quote. Don't think. Thinking is the enemy of creativity. It is self-conscious, and anything self-conscious is lousy. You can't try to do things. You simply must do things.
That is so okay. I have to add on to that, if you don't mind. One of the things I remember talking to a friend of mine who was helping me out with some music stuff early on, and I was getting his opinion on something. And I remember talking to him, and he's like, we were gonna meet up later on in the week, and he goes, yeah, so I'll try to get back to you. And then he just like stopped, and he corrected himself, and he goes, actually no, I'm not gonna try. You either do or you don't. So I'm gonna get back to you by the end of the week. And I'm like, and the way like he sort of like stopped and sort of corrected himself in that's the first time I ever saw anybody do that. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Like, there is no try. Yoda was right all along. There is just do.
There's no try.
Yeah.
Like Kalita doing like her cakes, like don't think about it. Just do. Just bake your cakes. Yeah. They're delicious, they're beautiful, they're amazing. Just do. You know, like you want to grow plants and have a beautiful garden inside your home, then grow it, build it, do it. Like, just do. Don't attempt things or try things. Just make it happen.
100%.
Rave, thank you for going through the creative psyche with me tonight and answering these questions.
Was I your first guest?
It is. You were my first like live guest.
Okay, I'll take it.
I did like a trial run of this with my friend who's in Italy, who has his blues band.
Oh, right.
And I was trying to help him process through some things. I said, wait a minute, can we try some of my questions I have for the creative psyche and just see if it helps you? And he like loved it, and it was like, why isn't this a podcast? I was like,
you do have. I must say, it's a great podcast idea, and I can't wait to hear more episodes.
Thank you, Rave.
All right.
This is lovely.
Cool. I'm glad you came up with this idea. I had a blast. I've learned quite a bit about myself, as a matter of fact, and I thank you for that.
You're welcome. That's the point.
Yes.
I love it. I hope everybody learned some new stuff about you as well, since we're passionate about you. So
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's very sweet of you. Yep. Thank you again for calling, Audie. You are the best.
Thank
you very much.
Calling me.
Absolutely.
You're the best. All right, I'll talk to you later.
Alrighty, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
That was awesome. That was freaking fire. I gotta say. That was kind of like a therapy session. That must be what therapy's like, right? When you just sit down and you kind of like just talk about your day. and you go like, oh, this is how I feel about that, and this is how I feel about that, and it really helped. I really feel like I have a lot better understanding about what I'm doing, or about myself even as an artist, and my relationship to myself as an artist. That was really powerful. Thank you again, Audie, for that experience, for giving me that experience, for trying to understand whatever the hell is going up here. I appreciate that, and that was, aside from being fun, that was informative, and I hope that was fun for you guys as well.